parents are masters of sports and rowing, so it seemed that Maria Kichasova was also destined to become a champion rower. Although before going into a kayak, future European champion had tried herself in many different sports: acrobatics, trampoline, fencing, sailing. It's impossible to remember everything. She gained fame and popularity as a girl with an oar, made the champion of Europe in a kayak-deuce, winner of the European Pride, and the leader of a crew of 4 kayakers. She's open, cheerful, purposeful, and unbroken. Meet Maria Kichasova. Eye color, grayish-blue. Zodiac sign, Cancer. Favorite season, summer. Favorite film, bucket list. Favorite book, Life Without Limits. Favorite drink, non-alcoholic mojito. Hobby, I learn English, I read books. Well, there is no such thing. I do not embroider, I do not do anything like that. At the last European Rowing and Canoeing Championships in the Bulgarian city of Plovdiv, the Ukrainian team won 1 gold and 3 bronze medals. Maria Kichasova put her hand to the gold in the 200-meter deuce together with Anastasia Hoylova, as well as in the crew of 4 together with Anastasia Todorova, Maria Pov, and Inna Hryshchun at the Olympic distance of 500 meters. The current achievements can be considered the beginning of the triumph of our heroine. The more of them you have in your career, the higher your level and your self-esteem, of course, because you don't train for nothing, regardless of whether it's an Olympic or non-Olympic competition. Of course, these are 2 different medals, in terms of distance, the quality of the performance, and by the specifics of the work. Therefore, they cannot be compared. I just have them, and I'm very happy about this. Maria Kichasova listened to the anthem of Ukraine at the European Championships in her honor for the first time. The emotions were unforgettable. I seem to have survived the emotions right after the finish. That is, they lasted for a couple of seconds. Then I experienced again a surge of emotions after control when we leave the track and we are weighed and wiped down. We were there with Nastya and again experienced these turbulent emotions. Then we changed our clothing in anticipation of this miracle. Indeed, it is not every day that you step up onto the podium, every day to be conferred the first place medal and hear the beautiful melody of your national anthem. The last Olympics in Rio were held without the participation of Maria Kichasova, although her place in the crew of 4 seemed to be guaranteed. Then a scandal arose when Masha was expelled from the crew of 4, but there is no need to stir up the past again. I try to gain some pleasure and find positive things in life, because it's very difficult to get hung up on the bad things and constantly recall them. After all, there's truly a lot of bad out there, but it's always better to remember the good. So I turned the page too and began to think differently, and I'm glad that it pays off with my performances. Maybe it's my positive attitude, or maybe it's my desire to train, because I think sometimes it disappears. But I want to feed it with positive energy, so it does not disappear. And there are plenty of positive things in the performances of our girls today. In Kichasova's collection, there are now victories at the World Cup and in the European Championships. The results do not stand still. Contenders are closely watching our girls. They see a real rival in them. The crew of 4 works as a team, but each member plays its own role. Maria Kichasova is the head of the crew. I say it once again, she's a person with a character and a cold heart, and maybe with a cold head. Because there should be a clear prediction. Well, just like the captain of a football team, if someone behind her might be a bit afraid to go the wrong way, then she cannot. Because it's like in a 3-horse team of a troika horse that carries everything on its own shoulders. Our Masha is exactly that kind of person. To make a monolithic crew is the role of the captain. To distribute correctly the forces along the distances, somewhere to add, somewhere to rest. All this is on the shoulders of Maria Kichasova, but without her friends in the crew, she naturally will not be able to do anything. I need to be stable in terms of technique, so that I do not change the stroke, so that it is not shorter on one side and longer on the other side. I need to be more stable and make smoother transitions, so that the girls cannot get off their feet. I can feel them in my feet. I do not see them. All the girls help me do all my work, no matter how complicated it is, because if not for their strength and efforts they put into the oars, I cannot stretch, I cannot do anything, I alone cannot pull the four. Like many athletes, Masha believes in science, although she is not particularly obsessed with them. To win, you just must train more and not to get immersed in some kind of superstition. I'm superstitious, though not that much, but I hate some of them, like a black cat or other things. At competitions, of course, I like when the boat is carried with its nose forward, but it does not matter. I think if you're strong, then you're strong even with any superstitions. And Maria Kichasova is a natural-born fighter. At the right time, she will certainly gather strength into a fist and concentrate on the most important. She learned to endure and wait. In women's rowing, there's incredible competition, but Kichasova is beyond that. All people are always nervous and even afraid in competitions. Someone more, someone less. I think she's in the latter category, because there are, as I say, racers, and she's in that category of racers abroad. She's the one who can race abroad, and she does not care who she is up against. And there are racers who race only in their native country. This character is inherent from the very beginning. And in the future we shall see. Perhaps one day she will decide to race alone when she matures in this highly competitive sport. Maria Kichasova was born and raised in Mykolaiv. Her mom was a master of sports in swimming and rowing. Since the training base was far away, the parents took the young Masha to other sports sections. In Mykolaiv, I did not know about rowing. In fact, I knew that my mother once rowed and swam, but I did not see rowing, no boats, nothing, simply because the base was far from my home and I could not get there. Nevertheless, I practiced acrobatics for 6 years. I have the first adult rank, as far as I remember, or even candidate for Master of Sports. I was engaged in the trampoline, in fencing, and in sailing. In general, I had a very active mother who helped me become an extremely active daughter. Kichasova got acquainted with rowing after the family moved to Poltava. The base was a stone's throw away from home, and her father, Serhiy Kichasov, worked as a serious coach. He made stars of other kids and decided to invest his knowledge and skills in his child. I started to travel to Europe, started to win in Ukraine, then I went to work on the team. It turns out that if you show a good result, then you don't train at home. You start attending training camps to pass systematic training with other girls, with other coaches. That's how it all develops. Every year the coaching staff changes, the staff of the national team changes, and the locations of the training camps change. This is the life we live. Maria Kichasova matured at a very early age. When you are 15, 16 years old, you live without problems. It's great. You do not have to go to school or university because you physically cannot. You live alone in a rented apartment every month in a different city. With age, of course, it's harder because you miss your parents too. With age, it somehow comes more personally for me. Of course, it's very important when you have a partner. I was lucky, thank God. My boyfriend also rows with me on this base. So in this respect, it is morally easier for me. This also affects the training and the results.
Мне в этом плане легче и морально легче, это тоже влияет на подготовку и на результат.
And in order to achieve high results, talent in rowing alone is not enough. Training here is hard, and not everyone can withstand it. During one training session, athletes row around 25 kilometers, sometimes more. We train even in January. If the river is frozen here, then we go to Vidubichi, where there is a central thermoelectric station. We row along this narrow canal. Icicles form on our eyelashes, eyebrows, and all over our faces. The skin shrivels and is all in nice, but we keep training because we need it. We cannot live not being on water. The coaches are also not happy in such conditions, but by personal example, they carry the entire burden on their shoulders. They're freezing with us. They stand and watch how we train. At least we move and somehow warm our blood, but they just stand and observe. They're even colder than we are. Maria Kichasova does not have any idols in rowing. As she says, there is a collective image. She likes someone's character, someone's technique, or someone's achievements. With unusual warmth, the girl remembers working with Dmitro Radomsky and Inna Osipenko-Radomska. Probably, if it were not for the Radomsky couple, I would have already left the sport 4 or 5 years ago, because it was very difficult for me, both in terms of training and in terms of understanding why I need it. It all accumulates over the years. This is a very complex sport, and tiredness comes very often. So there is a time when you just want to sink into despair, but I was helped to stay in this sport, and I, of course, also put my efforts into it. But in order to hang on, I needed to believe in myself and continue to train hard. Since 2012, the right hand of Maria Kichasova is adorned with tattoos, 2 lilies and a dragonfly. Masha does not intend to stop with this picture. She says she will expand further. Her parents did not prohibit this. It is quite positive. My mother, of course, is a bit worse than that. My dad is a pretty modern type of individual and goes with the flow. He communicates with youth, he trains young people, and he's pretty laid back when it comes to modern trends of youth, such as piercing, dyeing hair, and tattoos. My mother, on the contrary, is more of a Soviet person, if I may say so. She is very strict in terms of clothing. Her motto is, "Don't overdo it." That's the way she is. In terms of clothing, Kichasova is also pampered. Of course, she is used to sports style. If there is an event that we must attend, we need to spend a lot of time and energy and maybe even sew some clothing, because we have very narrow hips and very broad shoulders. It turns out that if you have L-size shoulders, then your bottom may be an S-size or even smaller. So this makes things very difficult. In general, I like jeans, sneakers, t-shirts and sweatshirts. I do not like things like jackets or blouses. They are not for me. I put them on very rarely, and if I do, then what I like is just to my taste. After successful performances at the European Championships, Masha, her friends, trainers and the leadership of the federation in the Olympic House were hosted by the president of the National Olympic Committee, Sergei Bubka. I wore a skirt for the second time in my life. I do not like this. If I wear a skirt, then this is still not a strict option, but more kind of casual. I will dress like this, probably not with classical shoes or with a simple bag. I will not wear any high heels shiners. I simply can't stand them. And then it's very difficult for us to choose clothing for our figure. Sometimes we choose dresses for years ahead. However, Maria Kichasova does not particularly focus on outfits. All her thoughts today are aimed at the most important starts in her later life at Tokyo 2020. She did not manage to perform in Rio de Janeiro. Then, by the decision of sports officials, she was rejected from the Olympic Games. But that story did not break her. I'm very glad that this happened, because then I realized that everything is not so easy in life. You must work hard and strive to attain your goals, and you must constantly improve yourself. Then after the Olympiad, I also had difficulty with my health and had to undergo surgery. But after that, since January, I began training again, and I achieved my goal this year, which I'm very proud of. The results at the World Cup and European Championships are the next steps on the way to Olympic medals. Masha Kichasova has a clear plan. I've known her for 4 years, and she really works on fulfilling a clear plan. She's gradually growing as an athlete. She did not have any obvious jumps. I cannot say that she has an inherent talent. She just works hard, and everything goes through work according to plan. Other rivals, of course, are making adjustments to her plans, but apparently she's trying much harder than they are, and her performances clearly show her steadfast determination to be a winner in her favorite sport. She survived the emotions from the triumph at the World Cup, and now her goal is to go through something like that at the Olympic Games in Tokyo in 2020. I believe that the Olympians, even Osipenko or Radomska, are striving for these emotions, because you cannot get them anywhere else in life. Maybe, of course, it happens in life. You successfully completed some super-duper project and earned $2 million, but are there still such emotions? I do not know. I have not tried this yet. But when our work pays off so much, it is virtually impossible to express in words. Rowing in canoes and kayaks in Ukraine has always been considered a medal-rich sport, so perhaps it will retain such a status thanks to Maria Kichasova and her friends on the team. Check out the Olympic Games in Tokyo in 2020.